The fact that my mic was off. Okay. Ah! My mic wasn't off. Oh my god, I forgot to change my title. Oh my god, I just went straight live. Okay, hold up. Ah! I can't believe. I can't believe this. Ah, no! I'm not live streaming Minecraft. No! I can't believe this. I'm gonna cry. I was so excited. I was so excited. Julie, it was that video. It was that video you sent me. It got me on my brain. Yeah, I've been broken hearted. That's so true. Scuff. Tommy Taco Tuesday. It's Tommy Taco Tuesday, everybody. I'm gonna go higher. I'm gonna piss on the moon. I was like, hello, everybody. Okay, that furious typing was me typing, typing the tweet, okay? I forgot to mute my mic. Oh my god, that is embarrassed to the ting. Look up Catbug Soft Taco. We're having soft tacos later. Isn't it that one? That was a very yeah. I kind of messed up. We're getting soft tacos later. I love that sound. I love that sound. Oh my god, chat. I can't believe that. Well, you know, it wouldn't be Kids' Stream if it wasn't scuffed. Out of college, found myself a whole new realm of knowledge down the forest, foraging for sounds that I can rhyme with orange. Look, I'm a simple gatherer among a world of hunters. Not about chasing clout, I'd rather gaze at clouds that feel the cup. Oh, the trending tab. Thank you for the hydrate, Dom. That's the analytics. Oh lord, life's getting hard. I'm too young for a credit card. And I crashed the very first time I drove my parents' car. Teardrops and May bends between... No! 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 Julie, get that off my screen! What the hell, Julie Berry? What? On a brave face. Hey, engaged, shaking pain straight away. Yay! I'm so excited. I would kill for a cat bug. Let's go. Hi, chat. Oh, no. Get that off my screen. I'm just kidding. It's funny. Oh, my gosh. Hi, chat. Did you just say making gay? What? Did I say that? No, I didn't. Who said that? Not me. Anyways, hi, chat. First of all, yes, it was very scuffed. I apologize. It's Tommy in it Tuesday. Let me... but never quite coping. I feel the heat beneath.
Motherfucker.
Hi, Sky. Hello, Sky. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So you're an independent and making wrong turns, treading on eggshells, laying on a bed. I'm not good. I'm not good. I'm drinking sweet tea, so maybe that's why I have energy. Keep everybody pacified, satisfied, appetized, fragile and distracted mind is acting like a satellite. So many transmissions, everything. I don't know why we don't do this. Highlight of the week. Let's go. Are you ready, chat? If I'm gonna be honest,
I need a little space to be.
And I'm living and loving
my life by the sea.
Hi, Julie Berry.
Hello.
Hello. Hold on, let me...
Don't you dare delete that.
What? Okay, no. Okay. Hold on.
Highlighted like all of it, and I was like, no, that's history right there. Let's go.
It was. Hold on, let's see. We're gonna try and... Okay, are you ready? Well, first of all, hello, Julie Berry Live.
Hello, Kitsage _.
Whoa, hold on, let me put you a
We're
little
using
bit.
our full names today. We're so formal.
I know, we are. We're just professionals. We're professionals.
We're professional fic readers. Dude.
You know what? So true. So true.
True.
How are we sounding on audio chat? Let me know.
Anyways,
I am so excited. It's been so good because I was like, it's Tommy and it's Tuesday.
Felt that, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Felt that.
And it's always a good day if it's Tommy and a Tuesday. It is.
Especially with these next 2 chapters.
Oh no! Okay, chat. These are gonna be my first. Okay, 15 I have read, but 16 I haven't. So you guys are gonna see like my reaction to.
These are the live reactions, people.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
I've read the entire fic, chat.
Yeah. So This is new to me. Yeah. I am so nervy. So nervy.
Yeah. Yep.
But.
Yeah, buddy.
I did have this prepared. I did have the chapter prepared. I was ready. And I am so excited. I was ready. What can I say? Yes. Get tissues. That's all I'm going to say. Actually, Julie, you would know better than I do. Is it a tissue day?
No, it's more like, be prepared to hold hands.
Well, then who's going to hold my hand?
Me? I'm reaching through the screen as we speak.
So true. So true. Okay. Are you ready, Julie Berry? Because I think we are quite ready.
Yes.
Okay. You want to get the... Oh, wait. First of all, again, I keep forgetting to do this disclaimer. Disclaimer, all follows, bits, raids, subs will be thanked at the end of the chapter. We are going to go gung-ho on this chapter. I'm so excited. And then we'll have the lore recap at the end, and we'll also talk a little bit, and then we'll keep going. But yeah, all of that at the end, and we're going to vibe. Now we are ready, Julie Berry Live.
Okay, Pog. Chapter 15. Overprotective. Tommy is getting real annoyed at how overprotective everyone is of him now.
Although Tommy knew he should probably be worried about someone spying on him when he left the cafe, he had to admit everyone being overprotective of him was starting to get annoying. First, it started with Wilbur, with his whole insistence that Tommy call him if he ever sensed anyone watching him again, like that night they went to the diner. Then, of course, Wilbur told Techno, who gave Tommy a bottle of pepper spray and a pocket knife, making him promise that if anyone tried shit, he wouldn't hesitate to use either of those things. Then Phil took up the pocket knife away, much to Tommy's disappointment, but he let him keep the pepper spray and doubled down on Wilbur's whole call one of us if you notice anything suspicious at all. Then, of course, Tommy knew he should probably mention it to the syndicate, which made Siren want to set up a guard rotation for the cafe, and Tommy had to argue with the man for nearly 10 minutes over Discord DMs to get it through his head why that would be a terrible idea. It didn't help that Jester came up with the same idea, and Tommy had to spend another 15 minutes explaining everything to him all over again, but how he wouldn't exactly be able to explain to his boss why he had a bodyguard. He appreciated how worried everyone was for him, but he was fine. Nothing even happened. He thought someone might be watching him, but that was it. There was no use in panicking over something so small.
But yeah, now everyone in Tommy's life was acting ridiculously overprotective of him. Wilbur texted him every time he got off work. It wasn't uncommon for someone from the syndicate, usually Daedalus, Jester, Siren, or Nemesis, to show up at the cafe just to watch over him while he went through the closing shift. And Techno kept talking about wanting to train him in self-defense. The only reason he hadn't yet was because they just hadn't found the time. In complete contrast, Tommy had barely heard from Tubbo and Rambo in weeks. Ever since he told him that he needed time before he could come home, the two had been keeping their distance. Sometimes he would get a text from Rambo asking where he put the soy sauce in the cabinet, or Tubbo would text him just to check that he was alive, but otherwise they didn't bother him. Tommy was frustrated by how conflicted he was over this. On the one hand, they were doing what he asked them to. They were giving him space, and he was grateful for that. But on the other hand, he missed his best friends. He hated when he saw a funny meme and went to send it to Tubbo, but had to stop himself at the last second. He hated it when he saw a cool recipe he knew Rambo would love to try and make, but had to stop himself from saving the video. This was what he wanted. He still didn't feel ready to go talk things out, but there was still a hole in his chest that used to be filled by his two best friends. It ached, and he knew that he was going to have to confront things eventually.
Eventually, but not yet. At least he had the Soot family. Whenever he got too sad thinking about Tubbo and Rambo, Wilbur would usually be there to drag him to his room to ask for advice on songwriting, or Techno would offer to watch whatever nature documentary was on Netflix Tommy wanted to put on. One day, when Wilbur and Techno were both out, but Tommy found the ache of missing his best friends throbbing painfully in his chest. He finally worked up the courage to knock on Phil's office door like he had offered to Tommy when he first started staying there. Although they had spoken plenty of times now, considering Tommy had been living there for over a month, he still had yet to ever find himself in Phil's office. Until now. Tommy, is that you? Phil called out after Tommy had knocked on the door.
Yeah, it's me, Tommy called back, already wanting to run back and hide in his room. Feel free to come in. The door's unlocked. Shit. Well, too late to turn around now. Taking a breath to steady himself, Tommy twisted the doorknob and stepped into the office.
The office itself was more quaint than he expected it to be. It wasn't particularly large, although the room wasn't cramped either. There were two bookcases on the wall next to the door and the wall behind Phil's head, both filled with a wide array of books that Tommy didn't recognize the titles of. There was a soft-looking, worn leather couch behind Phil's desk with a few blankets tossed over the cushions. Then, there was Phil's desk itself, which was a grand old thing made of dark oak wood, with the two large computer monitors sitting on top. There was also several candles burning, Tommy noticed. There was a dark orange one next to Phil's computer, along with two more sitting on the bookshelves. It made the room smell of cinnamon, apples, and sandalwood, and it almost reminded Tommy of the cafe. Phil was leaning back in his desk chair, eyes skimming some article on one of his monitors, but he turned his gaze away from the computer when Tommy walked in. "Hi, Tommy," Phil said, smiling at Tommy as he walked into the office. "Feel free to sit down wherever you like."
There was another small chair settled near Phil's desk, one that he could hypothetically drag over so he could be closer to Phil, but he decided against it for the time being and plopped down on the couch instead. As soon as his butt hit the seat, though, he started sliding down the leather and yelped as he tried to steady himself on the smooth surface. Phil, unsurprisingly, let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, yeah, I should have warned you about that. That couch can be pretty damn slippery at times," Phil told him with a mirth dancing in his eyes. "How the fuck do you even get a couch this smooth?" Tommy asked, grunting as he pushed himself back up to a normal sitting position.
"It's just from being worn down over the years," Phil explained, grinning at him. "I've had that couch since before I adopted Wilbur and Tech." "Damn, so this is ancient then. It's a miracle still standing," Tommy snarked, sliding down again and eventually deciding it'd be easier to just lay across the damn thing. "Wow, calling all of us old in one go, huh?" Tommy smirked. "Well, obviously, all three of you could qualify to go to an old person's home, I'm sure. But don't worry, Phil. I never sent you to an old person home. Only Will and Tech."
"I appreciate it, mate. Glad to know I got my youngest on my side," Phil joked. Me too.
Sorry.
Phil joked, seemingly oblivious to the slip-up he'd just made. Tommy didn't miss it, though. He froze. The words, "my youngest," repeating in his head. What did Phil mean by his youngest? Phil was the youngest in the house, sure, but from the way Phil worded that, it almost seemed like he was implying that Tommy was the youngest of his kids. That Tommy was one of his sons, just like Techno and Wilbur. Phil noticed the way Tommy stiffened, and seemed to catch onto what he had said. "Oh, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, Tommy," Phil stammered, suddenly straightening up in his seat. "Guess you've just been staying with us so long, you know, He cut himself off with a nervous laugh. I'm just being silly. Sorry about that."
Tommy stared at Phil, trying to get a read on what he was saying. He wasn't taking back the implications in his words, just apologizing for possibly making Tommy uncomfortable. There were two ways Tommy could react to this. He could let the fear gnawing at his sides rise up, lash out, and run away like he had done before when anyone acted like they wanted to try and parent him. It never worked out. They never actually wanted Tommy. They wanted a perfect child who they can mold into their own image. But Phil wasn't like that. Tommy knew that, and there was another way he could react to this. He could trust that Phil wouldn't push too far and too fast. He could trust that this family was different from the others. He could trust that he already had a brother out of Wilbur, and while he might not exactly know Phil well enough to think of him as a father, that didn't mean that day would never come.
Tommy chose the latter option. "Do you see me as a son figure, Phil's a soot?" Tommy asked with a shit-eating grin. The tension immediately dropped from Phil's shoulders, and he chuckled to himself. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I guess you've been living with us just reminds me of the first few months I had Wilbur here, and it's making me nostalgic. But I guess you haven't known me for very long, and you have your own life and your own job and apartment that you're going to want to go back to eventually. So don't feel any pressure to stay here just because I'm a sappy old man." He paused then, smile softening as he tapped his finger on the arm of his chair. Just know that even after you leave, you'll always have a home here if you ever want to come back. Oh.
A home. Tommy could have a home here. His throat suddenly felt a bit tight, and he had to swallow a few times before he could speak. I appreciate that a lot, he said, softly, keeping his eyes on the floor. I don't really know what I'm going to do once I talk to Temple Rombu again, but I'll remember that.
You don't need to know your plans yet. Just know that the door here will always be open for you. But if you don't end up going through it, none of us will mind, Phil told him, still smiling. There was a silence between them. Tommy wondered if he was going to say something else, if he should make an effort to continue this conversation. But thankfully, Phil spoke again before he had to try and figure it out. So, anyway, ignoring all that sappy shit, what did you want to come see me for? Phil asked, rolling his shoulders as the nostalgic look in his eyes faded. Oh, I didn't have a real reason, Tommy admitted, ducking his head again. It's just, you said I could come into your office if I ever wanted, and Will and Techno aren't here, and I was kind of, lonely, bored. But I can leave if you're busy. I don't want to distract you from work.
Tommy, it's fine, Bill reassured him. Oh my god. Gesturing for him to sit back down when he started to stand. I'm good.
I'm gonna give you a hydrate.
Oh, thank you. I'll only listen to your hydrate. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Tommy, it's fine, Bill reassured him, gesturing for him to sit back down when he started to stand. I was just thinking of taking a break from work anyway. It's boring shit that I really don't feel like doing right now, he said, clicking on a few windows on one of his monitors without letting Tommy see what they were. Usually when I take breaks from work, I play video games. Do you play a lot of games? Tommy shrugged. I've played Animal Crossing on Will's old GameCube, and I played Mario Kart before on a DS. I think one of the foster homes I was in had a Wii, but I don't think I got to play much before they sent me back. Sympathy flashed across Phil's face, but it was only for a brief moment before he was reaching under his desk. Well, have you played Halo?
Heard of it, Tommy said, remembering how in one of his foster homes his brother had spent hours on end playing it, but would yell at Tommy to get out of the room if he ever tried to watch. Don't know much about it, though. Do you want to play? Phil asked as he straightened up from under the desk with 2 Xbox controllers in his hands. Do I get to do cool stuff in it? Tommy asked, already reaching for the controller. You get to shoot aliens in the face.
Tommy grinned. Sounds bogus as hell. Matching his smile, Phil switched the monitor to the video game and Tommy watched the Xbox loading screen start up. As it turned out, Tommy was not very good at Halo. He had never played one of those shooty games before. Phil called it a first-person shooter, or an FPS, because he was a fucking nerd. And the controls were nothing like Animal Crossing or Mario Kart. Phil did his best to teach Tommy how to play, but even with the NPCs set on easy mode, Tommy kept getting his ass handed to him. Eventually, Phil switched the game mode over so there was no enemies to kill, and instead it was just the two of them in an empty valley with random weapons and vehicles scattered all over the place. Once Tommy found a strange purple plane thing that Phil called a ghost, he stopped caring about trying to aim the gun in the right direction. Instead, he just started flying around the whole map in his alien spaceship, cheering while Phil tried to shoot him down.
Tommy had a lot of fun that day, even if he did suck at Halo. After that, he started going to Phil's office when Wilbur and Techno weren't home, and the two would play games like Halo or Minecraft, which Tommy had never even heard of before Phil, and quickly realized it was one of the best games in the world, second only to Animal Crossing. Nearly 2 weeks after Wilbur and Tommy had felt eyes watching them when they left the cafe, Tommy found himself once again arguing about how he really didn't need someone to walk him home. Nemesis, I'm telling you, I'm fine, Tommy insisted, his keys jingling in his pocket as he finished the last of the closing routine for the cafe. Why can't you just let me walk you to the subway station? Nemesis asked, leaning against the counter while Tommy pushed the mop towards the back room. She had a cup of hot chocolate in her hands, the steaming curling up and around her face as she took small sips of it.
Because every hero in the goddamn city is gunning for you right now, and I'd really rather not have to fix your cracked skull again, Tommy said, grunting as he shoved the mop in the broom closet. Plus, if there's anyone I should avoid being seen in public with, it's you. I already know your name, and that alone is risky as shit for the both of us. Nemesis huffed, pushing a few strands of cotton candy hair out of her face. I know, but I'm just worried about you. We all are. Her voice softened at this part, and Tommy resisted the urge to sigh because he understood that they were just worried about him and he really appreciated it. But again, the overprotectiveness was a little frustrating. Damn right we are, another voice chimed in. Thanatos strolled out from the cafe bathroom, readjusting the skull mask on his face that he'd replaced his original blue and red goggles with after his rebranding. Then he settled himself right next to Nemesis, their shoulders brushing as he lifted up his own iced coffee. Yes, he asked Tommy for an iced coffee at midnight and took a long sip with loud slurping noises coming from the straw.
It was the first time Tommy had seen Thanatos in person since he healed him all that time ago, and it was relieving for him to see that his powers had done wonders on the burn scars. Sure, they were still there, but Thanatos didn't have trouble moving them and didn't seem to be in any pain, so that was enough for Tommy to think of it as a job well done. Not to mention, he liked talking with Thanatos. The guy was funny, and banter flowed easily between the two of them. Tommy had a feeling that if he ever met Thanatos in a civilian form, the two of them would become fast friends. Not you too, Tommy groaned, slamming the door to the broom closet shut. Come on, Thanatos. You know I'm a big man. You're all just such fucking mother hens. Well, yeah, because you're being watched by some creepy fuck that probably doesn't have a great intentions, Thanatos shot back. But I gotta admit, you also have a good point about not being seen with Nemesis.
Nemesis protested. You know I'm right, Thanatos shot back. You're literally one of the most wanted villains in the city right now. If there's anyone Tommy shouldn't be seen with, it's you. Exactly, which means I'm walking home by myself, Tommy said, slinging his backpack over his shoulder as he headed towards the doors. Come on, you two, get out of my cafe before I drag your asses out. The two villains followed Tommy towards the doors, checking to make sure no one was cut onto the street who could see them. Once they were all outside, Tommy twisted the lock to secure the door and then raised an eyebrow at the two waiting villains.
You two, get going now. I got it from here, Tommy said, making shooing motions at the two of them. Thanatos, who once again sipped loudly on his iced coffee, huffed. If anything happens at all, you better call one of us. Got it? Rolling his eyes, Tommy nodded. Jesus Christ, I promise this about 10 times now. Yes, I'm fine. With one final nod, Thanatos patted Tommy on the shoulder while Nemesis gently ruffled his hair. Then, the two turned down the opposite street Tommy had to walk down to get to the subway station, and Tommy watched until they turned a corner and were gone from sight.
Then, Tommy headed out towards the subway station. He kept his phone in hand, looking for that prickling feeling on the back of his neck that would tell him if he was being watched, but he didn't feel it. His eyes skimmed the rooftops across the street, but he didn't see any more strange flashes of white. The only sounds on the street were his footsteps squelching against the wet concrete, as it had rained earlier that afternoon and the sidewalk was still damp. He didn't have an umbrella, but the rain seemed to be over. Still, Tommy kept nervously glancing up at the swirling clouds above his head, feeling the weight of the moisture in the air, and he hurried his footsteps just in case his luck decided to die out tonight and the downpour started up again. Tommy was so focused on the clouds in the sky and searching for movement on the rooftops that he didn't even notice the two figures across the street until there was a sudden shout. Shit! That's not exactly helping! A man yelped.
I'm sorry, but we need to get home one way or another, the other person replied. Whipping his head across the street, it took Tommy a moment to locate the two figures bathed in the orange glow of the streetlight. One was leaning heavily against the other, and they were walking with the pained slowness that could only come from an injury. It took Tommy a moment to recognize Monarch. He hadn't seen them since they'd saved him from getting mugged over a year before, but their general look was relatively the same. White blouse, gold corset, and a literal cape that was made out of a sheer, sparkly fabric that looked like actual stars. Everything about Monarch screamed royalty, as they were the type of vigilante to go all out with matching their look to their name. And if that wasn't enough, the mask that covered the lower half of their face was white and gold and covered in gorgeous embroidery, and they had a literal golden crown to keep their hair back. The other person with Monarch, though, Tommy didn't recognize him.
He was about the same height as Monarch, although had significantly broader shoulders and very well-muscled arms. Like, this guy wasn't as buff as the Blade, but he was close. His face was completely covered by a golden mask shape that made him look like a living statue. He was dressed in a similar color scheme to Monarch, but with more gold as opposed to white accents. His clothing was looser and made of more draping fabrics, and it reminded Tommy of something you'd wear in a desert. Wait, the Syndicate had mentioned Monarch had a new partner, right? Aurelian, the guy who dressed in a bunch of gold. This guy certainly fit the description. The man he presumed to be Aurelian was the one leaning heavily against Monarch's side and even From across the street, Tommy could see a dark splotch on his shirt that must have been blood. Monarch was struggling to guide Aurelian down the street, and although Tommy had no... Oh, dang it. Where they had lived, it didn't look like they should wait that long for Aurelian to get medical attention. Alright, guess he was back on the clock. Hey! Tommy shouted as he walked over the street, causing both vigilantes' heads to whip up. You guys okay? Aurelian started before Monarch shot him a look and he dragged the syllable out instead. Tonight? Yeah, we're doing great tonight. How about you, random citizen? Oh, wait, no, that was... Okay, oops. Tonight? Yeah, we're doing great tonight. How about you, random citizen? Excuse him, he's delirious from blood loss. Monarch apologized, looking sheepish. Yeah, okay. Aurelian definitely seemed like he was a bit delirious.
You guys are Monarch and Aurelian, right? Tommy asked, although who the hell else would be dressed like this, bleeding out on a random street at this time of night? That's us, Monarch answered. You need help with something, though. You might want to call the authorities instead of us. As you can see, Aurelian isn't in great shape right now. I'm fine, just a small stab wound. We're good, Aurelian insisted, despite the fact that he couldn't stand up straight. A stab wound isn't very good, Tommy deadpanned. In fact, it's kind of shit. You look like you need help.
We'll be fine. We're headed back to my place now so we can get him patched up, Monarch explained, grunting again when Aurelian slumped further against them. How far away is that? Because he doesn't seem like he's going to be able to walk for much longer, Tommy pointed out. Just a few blocks. We'll make it no problem, Monarch said, although Tommy could hear the uncertainty in their tone. A few blocks. They were only a block away from the cafe.
Well, it's not like the Syndicate ever said he wasn't allowed to heal non-villains, right? Besides, it's not like he could just leave a vigilante to bleed out, especially when the vigilante in question was Monarch's partner. Tommy still owed Monarch for saving him that one time, after all. I can patch you up. My place is only a block away from here, Tommy said, jerking his thumb back towards the cafe. Not me doing that exact same move. Oh my gosh. Monarch frowned. You have a first aid kit? Tommy snorted. I have everything you need to get that fixed up, he told them. Plus, I have a lot of experience with patching up wounds like this.
You do? Aurelian questioned, sounding a bit breathless now. Sure do. Now, we're gonna go back before Aurelian bleeds out, or what? Tommy questioned, raising an eyebrow at Monarch. Monarch's frown deepened, their pure white eyes crinkling at the corners as they glanced down at Aurelian, as if checking to see what he thought. Tommy had no idea how they had a silent exchange when Aurelian's entire face was hidden behind his mask, but they certainly seemed to, because after a few beats, Monarch nodded. Okay, we'll go with you, Monarch said.
Sounds good. I'll lead the way, Tommy told them, turning on his heel and leading them towards the cafe. It was a slow-going process. Aurelian really wasn't doing too hot, despite his insistence that it was just a baby stab wound, and nothing to get worked up about. At one point, Tommy ducked around to see his other side to help Monarch carry him, and the two worked together to drag Aurelian towards the cafe. Was it a good idea for Tommy to was it a good idea for Tommy to be bringing the two of them to the cafe? They were vigilantes, after all. Vigilantes he didn't know. With the Syndicate, not only did he have an arrangement, but he trusted them. And obviously he trusted Nuke and Ender not to blow his secret, but what would Monarch and Aurelian think? They ended up passing the front of the cafe and going around the back so they could go through the back room. Tommy wasn't too keen to enter in the front with two vigilantes following him, especially now that he might have had a stalker, so he figured the extra steps were worth it.
Thankfully, Tommy also had a key for the back door. As Monarch leaned Aurelian against a wall in the alleyway, Tommy twisted the lock to open the back door, and the room lit up with harsh white lights as he started to set up his area. Dumping his backpack on the floor, Tommy spread out the towels and yanked the first aid kit out like he always did. Then, with the area prepared, he called out, Monarch, you can bring him in now. Monarch grunted as they pulled Aurelian off the wall and guided him into the back room. Tommy shut the door behind him and gestured for Monarch to set Aurelian down on the towels. As soon as Aurelian was laying down, though, he let out a confused noise.
Wait, why the hell are we at the Cloudy Cafe? I work here, so I have the keys, Tommy shrugged, kneeling down next to Aurelian and moving to lift his shirt. Monarch settled down on the opposite side of Aurelian and eyed the towels Tommy had laid down. You seem like you've done this before, they commented. Tommy snorted as he carefully went Tex in there for a bit. Tommy snorted as he carefully peeled the fabric back from the bloody wound, sighing in relief when he saw it had clean edges, done with a knife and not a piece of debris. That would be a lot easier to deal with. Yeah, you could say that.
What? Dude! What do you mean you've done this before? Aurelian asked. His voice strained as Tommy pressed gauze on the wound. Do you just regularly bandage stab wounds in the back room of the cafe you work at? Pretty much, Tommy shrugged, nodding to himself as he cleaned up the worst of the blood. Alright, now don't move for a few seconds. Aurelian made a noise like he was about to ask another question, but Tommy put his hands over the wound before he could, and he let out a pained whine. Monarch leaned forward to see what Tommy was doing and flinched when Tommy's hands began to glow. Closing his eyes, Tommy sunk into the energy flowing out of his hands. It wasn't a bad stab wound, and while he was definitely going to have a headache after this, it wouldn't be anything terrible.
When Tommy lifted his hands, the only evidence of the stab wound was a faint scar on Aurelian's side. Sitting back, Tommy wiped his hands on the edge of the towel and took a moment to catch his breath. Then he opened his eyes to find both Monarch and Aurelian staring at him. You have healing powers? Aurelian questioned, poking at his scar as if he wasn't sure it was real. Sure do. I would have just healed you on the street, but I figured someone might see us. Plus, it's easier if I'm able to look at the thing in proper lighting like this before I heal, Tommy explained, pushing to his feet to get himself a glass of water.
As he reached for the glasses, he almost grabbed 2 more for Aurelian and Monarch as well, before realizing they wouldn't be able to drink without removing their masks. So he ended up just grabbing one for himself and greedily gulped down the cool water from the filter pitcher in the fridge. Once he set the glass down, he saw that Monarch was leaning over to look at the healed stab wound. Meanwhile, Aurelian seemed to be watching Tommy, but it was hard to tell with the mask covering so much of his face. If you're going to stare so much, take a picture, Tommy muttered, grumbling as he took another sip of his water. Aurelian didn't look away. So you heal people, like in this cafe, on a regular basis?
Yeah. I heal people in, your line of work, Tommy muttered, unsure if he should mention to the vigilantes that he heals villains. Vigilantes? Monarch asked, cocking their head to the side. Yeah, Tommy said, eyes fixating on the wall behind Monarch's head. And, others. Monarch narrowed their glowing white eyes at him, and Tommy had to suppress the urge to shiver at how unsettling that was. You mean villains, don't you?
You heal villains in this cafe? Aurelian gasped, shooting upright. Shit. This might not go as well as he thought. Monarch, I thought you were on neutral terms with villains, Tommy asked, remembering the discussion they'd had on Monarch and Aurelian during the syndicate meeting. I am when they're not harming civilians. I never said I had a problem with you healing them. Monarch shrugged.
Yeah. Well, I have a problem with it, Aurelian exclaimed. Why are you healing villains in the back of this cafe? Tommy frowned. I thought you were trained by Monarch, and they literally just said they don't care. What's your problem? Aurelian huffed, folding his arms over his chest as he glanced at around the back room again. I guess I should clarify. I don't have a problem with you healing villains, but why do you have to do it in this cafe? Because I live in a tiny apartment with roommates, and this place is just easier to get to. Tommy really didn't understand what Aurelian's fixation on the cafe was. Why the hell do you care so much? What are you, a regular customer of mine or something? God, wouldn't that be the icing on the cake? Not only would he have villains stopping in to get coffee on a regular basis, but he'd have vigilantes too. The Cloudy Cafe would be super central.
Aurelian shared another look with Monarch, who gave him a tiny shake of their head in response to whatever his silent question was. At this, Aurelian sighed deeply. You could say that, he said, picking at the threads of his shirt. I'm familiar with the place, and I know the owner. Does she know about this? Tommy shook his head. No, but I clean everything up as soon as I'm done, and it's only after I close for the night. Her business isn't affected. Yeah, sure, but you're literally using her back room to heal supervillains, Aurelian exclaimed, bolts of electricity flickering around his fingertips. It was kind of mesmerizing to watch how it danced between each of his fingers in little blue zaps, and Tommy could only imagine how painful it would be to get hit by a large one of those.
Monarch put their hand on Aurelian's shoulder after his outburst, and the electricity died down. Aurelian's shoulders dropped, and there was an awkward silence while Tommy waited for one of them to speak again. Why did you offer to help us? Monarch then asked, clearly trying to change the subject. I mean, I'm sure you knew we were going to ask about this kind of stuff. Tommy rolled his eyes. What, you expect me to just leave you and Lightning Boy alone on the street so you can bleed out? He leaned against the counter, folding his arms over his chest. Nah, I don't do that. I help vigilantes and villains because you guys can't get healthcare anywhere else. So I wasn't just gonna let Aurelian bleed out because you might ask me a few awkward questions. Monarch nodded, something softening in their white gaze. You must be a very compassionate person, they commented. And although Tommy couldn't see under their mask, he had a feeling they were smiling at him.
Ugh! Shut up about me being compassionate and shit. Everyone I heal says that, and I'm just trying to be a decent human being. Tommy grumbled, shaking his head. Monarch laughed, and it was warm, filling sound. Well, if it's worth anything, I think you're very kind, and that it takes more than a decent human being to do what you do. Once again, everyone says that, Tommy muttered, downing the rest of his water. Maybe you should consider that it's true then, Monarch chuckled again. Then they pushed to their feet, their tall boots thumping loudly against the tile floor. Aurelian, you good to go?
Yeah, hold me up, Aurelian said, holding out a hand. Monarch grunted as they pulled Aurelian to his feet. Then, Monarch reached out a hand to steady Aurelian, before they both turned back to look at Tommy.
What's your name, by the way?
Monarch asked.
Tommy. Nice to meet you, Tommy,
Monarch said, dipping their head.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you too, Tommy. Oh, oops. Yeah, it was nice to meet you too, Tommy, and thanks for healing me. Aurelian added on, sounding a lot less incredulous than he had a few minutes before. Sorry about getting worked up like that, but you really do need your own place to do this stuff at, you know? Ah, yes, I'll use my barista salary to buy myself a clinic. Great fucking idea, Tommy snarked. Hey man, just saying, goals for the future, Aurelian shot back, holding his hands up in mock surrender. I'll keep that in mind, Tommy said flatly.
With one final wave, Monarch and Aurelian walked back out into the alleyway, letting the door swing shut behind them. Turning his head back to the floor, Tommy looked at the now bloody towels scattered across... Whoa. At the bloody towels scattered across the towels, and... and here he thought he'd have an early night. Rolling up his sleeves, he got to work on cleaning. A little while later, Tommy had just finished up cleaning the back room and was heading back to the front of the cafe as he slung his backpack over his shoulder, keys in hand so he could lock the front door again when he left. Yeah, I know words. There was a loud buzzing from his phone.
Taking his phone out, he resisted the urge to groan when he saw Wilbur's name flashing across the screen. Tommy was late coming home. That meant he was going to get a lecture. Yeah, I know I'm late, Tommy said as soon as he answered the phone, trudging across the cafe towards the door. Why are you late? Is everything okay? Wilbur asked, voice dripping with concern. Everything's fine. Don't be such a dramatic bitch. The espresso machine just fucked up again, Tommy lied. Even though Tubbo and Rambu had stopped falling for that a while ago, the Soots hadn't gotten that far yet, which meant Tommy could go back to pinning all his problems on the stupid goddamn espresso machine. God knew it deserved it. It was a piece of junk.
Wilbur breathed a sigh of relief.
Okay, that's fine. I just got worried. But are you sure there's nothing weird outside?
Well, besides 2 vigilantes? I'm not outside yet. I'm heading out right now, and I'll let you know, Tommy said, putting the phone between his shoulder and his ear as he opened the door to the cafe. When I get home, though, can we watch another Ghibli movie? Like, whatever the one you were telling me about most recently is. The one with the old lady and the wizard that Techno says acts like you. Tommy sighed on the other end. Fuck off. I'm not like Howell. If anything, Techno's more similar, since he spends way more time on his hair than I do.
I don't know, Will. You have like 3 different hair gels, Tommy teased him. They're used for different kinds of looks, Wilbur argued. You know what? When you get home, I'm going to show you my hair products and then show you Techno's hair stuff, and you can compare which one of us is worse. Twisting the key into the lock, Tommy hummed in response. There was a satisfying click as the lock was shut, and he pocketed his keys before grabbing the phone to hold it again. All right, bitch.
Another voice cut him off before he could update Wilbur. Tommy. Whipping around, a rock the size of a goddamn boulder dropped into Tommy's gut as his eyes met a simple smiley face set against a porcelain mask. It was Dream. The Dream. The #1 hero Dream. The one who had nearly killed every member of the syndicate at some point or another. The one who could have killed Tubbo and Rambu just for being vigilantes.
Tommy's breathing hitched. Dream was standing right in front of the cafe in all his #1 hero glory. And he knew Tommy's name. Tommy? He just went quiet. Are you okay? Wilbur asked, his voice tinny over the phone. Dream, Tommy stammered out, frozen as he stared at the superhero.
There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the phone. Dream is there? Shit, fuck, Tommy, I need you to... Suddenly, the phone was flying out of Tommy's hand. He could only watch with wide eyes as the phone was pulled into Dream's hand, as if being yanked by an invisible string. Then, without looking away from Tommy, Dream chucked the phone at the ground and stomped on it with a loud crunch, and Tommy's heart skipped a beat as the screen immediately went black. Sorry about that, but this isn't a conversation for outside ears, Dream said, his calm tone sending chills down Tommy's spine. I don't know what conversation you want with me, big man, Tommy said, a voice in his head screaming play dumb over and over at him. I'm just a little old barista boy, you know? I don't see why the great Dream would want...
Shut up and stop playing dumb. I know what you've been doing, Dream told him. I mean, working out of the back room of the cafe you work at isn't exactly the most subtle way to run a healing business. Tommy clenched his jaw. Fuck. I don't know what you're talking about, Tommy repeated, although the lie felt weak, even to his own ears. I don't even have powers, let alone healing powers. His own laughter was forced and reminded him of nails on chalkboard. Dream took a step towards him, and Tommy stumbled backwards. Maybe he could make a break for the subway station, or at least one of the alleyways and hide behind a dumpster or something.
Either way, he had to get the hell away from Dream. Don't make this difficult on yourself, Dream said, taking another step his way. Tommy took another step back on instinct, but shrieked when he bumped into another body behind him. Twisting his head so he could look behind him, ice-cold fear raced down his spine when his eyes met the signature white goggles of 404.
What the? Before Tommy could say anything, 404 placed his hands on either sides of Tommy's head. Sleep, he ordered, and Tommy had no choice but to obey. As the world went dark, he felt strong arms catch him before he hit the ground. The last thing he saw before being swallowed by the void were the beady eyes of Dream's mask.
I wear a mask with a smile for hours at a time.
I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't. I'm not prepared. Okay, that's the last chapter that I've read before. I haven't read anything. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry.
Don't cry.
I'm gonna cry. Okay. Okay.
I love that chapter.
That's such a good chapter. Okay. Well, first
I like the moment with Phil and Tommy.
Hell yeah. Okay. Well, first, let's see. Okay.
Recap.
Well, first of all, let me follow Raid's stuff. Infinite 8, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you if you're still here. Thank you. Dark BB Boy or B-Boy TV, thank you so much for the follow. DDM Dag TV, thank you for the follow. Dog Lover JTV, thank you for the follow. Morgan is Live TV and Big Man Bonds, thank you guys so much for the follows. Thank you. Let's see. Lore recap.
Okay.
You can give the lore recap because I'm gonna cry.
Okay, lore recap from what I can recall.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tommy, Will and Techno are out of the house, so Tommy goes to see Phil. Phil plays video games with him, teaches him how to play Halo. Tommy sucks at playing Halo, but he does good at playing Minecraft. And then he's hanging out with Thanatos and Nemesis, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna go. And so Tommy's all like, okay, we're locking up and I'm leaving. And then he walks outside and he sees, dun dun dun, Monarch and Aurelian. Ooh. Aurelian has been stabbed. A man has fallen for a man in the Lego City. So Tommy's all like, yo, what's up, man? I can't let you just die out here. Come to my cafe and I'll, like, heal you up. And so they go, say less, bestie. They're hanging out in the cafe. Aurelian's all like, yo, why are you doing it in the cafe? Why are you healing stuff in the cafe? And he's like, why are you working up about the cafe? Because, guys, spoiler alert, freaking foolish is Aurelian. And so that's why, and then Foolish works at the cafe, so it's like, wow.
He's like, poor mum, poor mum.
And then Monarch Aaron is all like, sexy voice. Thanks for healing my man Aurelian. And so
Sexy voice.
they like get out of there after Tommy heals him up. And then Tommy's all like, hey yo, what's up, my brother Wilbur? I'm gonna call him on the phone. And so they're chatting. He's like, I'm coming home, man. I'm coming home, bestie. And Wilbur's all like, oh, poggers. And next thing you know, this American white boy, Dream, says, hey Tommy, come with me. I know what you've been up to, man. And so Tommy goes, uh-oh. Next thing you know, Goggy's there and tells him to freaking black out, and then he does.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, he also steps on his phone.
Oh yeah, what the
Dream
heck?
shatters Tommy's phone.
Ducky
How's he
Donovan,
gonna
thank you
post
so much
on
for the follow.
Twitter.com?
He maybe he can't. Oh
But anyways,
Ducky Donovan,
that's
thank
our
you so much
lore
for the follow.
recap.
And thank you for that lore recap. Thank you.
I think I need to start doing the lore recaps from now on.
I think you need to too. I see. Okay, you're gonna have a little bit of a better understanding because this is gonna be like your second time reading this, so you kind of remember more. So
I've read like specific chapters like over again whenever I just want to feel something.
Yep.
So,
hell yeah, hell to the yeah. So I mean, you can do lore recaps. I'm fine with that. Tommy can't get those Discord calls anymore. He can't go on Discord. I'm howling at the
I hope he had iCloud because all of his photos are gone, man.
No. Well, yeah, that's lore recap. So, I think we're ready. Are we ready for chapter 16?
Yes. Chapter 16, November 16th, the day L'Manberg was blown up.
I think I'm hitting on 16.
That too.
Mm-hmm.
Both are Lord. Both are Lord boys.
You are in my shadow.
Act like it.
Act like it.
You are a walking second place medal.
All the dancer photos. No.
Oh my gosh. Now Wilbur's gonna be thrown into a panic.
Oh no. Well, guess what? Because I'm gonna say these exact words. Chapter 16. This is bad. Tommy is gone.
The line went dead, and Wilbur found himself staring at the phone in shock as he tried to process what the hell just happened. 1 minute he'd been talking to Tommy about Studio Ghibli movies. Then Dream was there, and the call hung up. Immediately, Wilbur tried to redial, but Tommy's phone went straight to voicemail without even ringing. He tried again, and by the 5th time he heard the automated voice message, he was ready to chuck his phone across the room. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. Dream had found Tommy, and Tommy had sounded so scared when he said Dream's name, like he couldn't tell Dream wasn't there with good intentions.
Wilbur wanted to believe that Dream didn't know. For the first time in his goddamn life, he wanted to give that bastard the benefit of the doubt and pray that he was still pretending like he was a good guy and wanted to offer to walk a teenager home. But Wilbur wasn't an idiot. He knew Dream. Hell, Dream had tried to kill him dozens of times before. The only reason Dream would show up in Eastside at this time of night to confront Tommy would be if he knew about Tommy's work with the syndicate. Oh god. If Dream knew that Tommy worked with the syndicate, he was probably going to want to interrogate Tommy for information on all of them. And if that was his plan, that meant he wasn't going to do it in the middle of the street. He was going to kidnap Tommy. Oh fuck, he probably already had. While Wilbur was sitting on his ass trying to process what happened, Dream could be grabbing Tommy right now and dragging him to God knows where.
No. This was the worst case scenario. This was exactly what Wilbur had wanted to prevent this entire time. He couldn't breathe. He had to get up. He had to go save Tommy before Dream kidnapped him. God damn it! But his thoughts were racing and his heart was pounding in his ears and he couldn't breathe because what if Dream hurt Tommy? What if he pulled out all the stops on the interrogation? That fucking monster would do it. Wilbur wouldn't put it past him. Shit, he needed to get to the cafe right now. Phil! Wilbur screamed, slamming the door open to his room and practically jumping down the stairs. Phil! No!
As soon as he got to the bottom of the stairs, Phil and Techno were rushing out of the kitchen, staring at him with wide eyes. What's wrong? Phil asked. It's Tommy. I was I was on the phone with him, and he was leaving the cafe, and then there was this voice, he said Dream's name, and I think, holy fucking shit, this is all my fault. Wilbur, Techno's shout startled Wilbur out of his panicked rambling, while his father stepped forward to grab his wrist to pull his hands away from his hair, which Wilbur hadn't even noticed he was yanking on.
Tell us what happened. You said something about Tommy and Dream? Phil questioned in a gentle voice. Taking a shaky breath, Wilbur tried to explain again.
I was on the phone with Tommy. He was closing the cafe. Then I heard a voice say his name, and Tommy said it was Dream. Then before I could say anything, the call went dead. And I tried calling him again, but the phone didn't even ring. It just went straight to voicemail.
As he explained, Techno and Phil both visibly paled. So you think Dream's kidnapped him? Techno asked, clenching his jaw.
I don't see why Dream would have been there otherwise, Wilbur said, wrapping his arms around himself. He must have found out about Tommy working with us. It's the only thing I can think of. It would explain why he's been acting so weird recently, Techno murmured, a deep frown settling over his face. It makes too much sense. His shoulders were hunched as he thought about over the previous few weeks in his mind, and Wilbur could practically see the gears turning in his brother's head as he pinpointed all the places he could have figured this out sooner. While he wanted to reassure him that it was all right, that there was no way any of them could have known for sure that Dream was targeting Tommy, he also knew what now wasn't the time to focus on any of that. We need to get to the cafe, Wilbur repeated, turning to Phil. For all we know, they could still be there. It was a futile hope, but he had to hold on to something. The only thing he could do right now was beg and plead with luck that Tommy and Dream would still be there when they got to the cafe.
Okay, but does Wilbur need to show up there, or Siren? Phil asked, raising an eyebrow.
Siren, obviously,
Wilbur scoffed, already racing back up the steps to grab his mask.
If there's still the cafe, we're gonna have to fight Dream, and we can't do that as civilians. Grab my mask for me.
Techno called up the stairs. I'll start the car. I'll get my veil, Phil muttered, rolling his shoulders as wings materialized on his back.
Don't bother grabbing your full outfits, though.
We just need our identities covered.
A few minutes later, they were all settled in the black SUV they had originally driven Tommy to the syndicate meeting in. Techno was in the driver's seat with Phil in the front passenger's side, while Wilbur had the back all to himself. Wilbur was hunched over as they drove, clenching and unclenching his fists while rapidly tapping his foot against the car floor. His mind was still racing as he thought of all the terrible things Dream could be doing to Tommy right now. Tommy, his little brother, the boy who saved his life when he only knew him as one of the most feared supervillains in L'Manberg, purely because it was the right thing to do. The boy who he had grown to love as family in only a few months' time. Tommy could be getting fucking tortured by Dream for all he knew, and it was all Wilbur's fault.
Part of him was desperately trying to spiral into anxiety, thinking about how Dream could be hurting his brother right now. But Wilbur knew he had to hold off on the panic. If they got lucky, and Dream and Tommy were still at the cafe, then he would need to have his head on straight so he could choke the life out of Dream with his bare hands. Wilbur? Startled out of his thoughts, Wilbur straightened in his seat.
What, Tech?
I asked if you knew anyone was keeping an eye on him tonight. I thought I saw something about Nikki and Jack stopping by while he closed us up, Techno said, his voice calm despite the white-knuckled grip he had on the steering wheel.
Holy shit. Wilbur had seen that too. While the syndicate had never established a formal guard schedule after Wilbur had told him all about the incident involving them being watched, when walking home that one night, the members of the syndicate had taken it upon themselves to set up times to watch over Tommy while he went through his closing routine. They weren't able to have someone with him every night, but it was damn near close enough, and tonight Wilbur knew he'd seen Nikki say something about heading by the cafe with Jack. But when Wilbur was on the phone with Tommy, he didn't hear any other voices. Had Nikki and Jack been there but just stayed quiet? Or had they already left at that point? If they hadn't left yet, did they try to fight Dream off? Were they still fighting him? Pulling out his phone, Wilbur dialed Nikki's number and dug his nails into his palm while it rang.
Hello? Nikki greeted, sounding perfectly fine and not like she was in the middle of a fight.
Nikki, where are you?
Wilbur asked without preamble. I'm at home. Why?
Did you go see Tommy tonight?
Yeah, me and Jack were at the cafe with him when he closed up, Nikki explained, and he could hear the confusion in her voice. Why? Is he not home yet? Wilbur frowned. Was he on the phone with me when he closed? No, he wasn't, Nikki told him. If he's not home yet, that's really not good, because he closed the cafe about an hour ago. What?
That's not possible. I was on the phone with him 10 minutes ago, and he told me he was closing then. I could hear him locking the door through the phone.
That doesn't make sense, though. Jack and I watched him close everything up and lock the door, Nikki said, her voice tightening as she picked up on Wilbur's panic. Wilbur, what's going on? Did something happen? Taking a breath to steady himself, Wilbur felt his nails cut through the skin of his palm, and he winced as blood began to ebb out.
I was talking with him, and he told me he was locking up. I heard him lock the door to the cafe, and then I heard a voice, and Tommy said Dream was there. There was a sharp gasp on the other end of the line. Dream?
Yeah, he sounded fucking terrified. Then before I could ask him anything, the call went dead, and now his phone's not ringing when I dial him. Fuck! Nikki cursed. Jack and I can be in the cafe in 10 minutes if you want us over there, she said, and he could really hear her shuffling around her room. Don't come over here yet. I'm on my way with Techno and Phil. We'll let you know if we need backup, Wilbur said, tensing as they turned onto the cafe street. I gotta go now, Nikki. I'll text you soon. Let the others know what happened. Got it, Wilbur. We'll be on standby.
Wilbur hung up without another word, shoving his phone in his pocket and jumping out of the car while it was still slowing down in front of the cafe. He stumbled to keep his footing and rushed over to the front doors of the cafe. There were no people there, but there were two things on the ground that made bile rise in Wilbur's throat. One was Tommy's backpack. The annoyingly red pack that had an Animal Crossing pin Phil had given him sitting on the front of it was still sitting right in front of the doors to the cafe, tossed carelessly to the side. The other thing was hard to recognize at first, but when Wilbur realized what it was, he sucked in a sharp breath. Tommy's phone was nearly in two pieces because of how badly it had been cracked. It was almost like someone had taken a hammer and smashed it several times over in a fit of rage.
That explains why Wilbur's call stopped going through. Slowly, he knelt down to pick up the phone, wincing when broken glass fell into his palm. This hadn't been broken by accident, and even if it somehow had, Tommy never went anywhere without his backpack. It had his wallet, phone charger, earbuds, pepper spray, everything that he wanted to keep on him at all times was in there. Tommy wouldn't have left those things willingly. The only option was that he had to have been kidnapped.
Gripping the phone in his hand, Wilbur leaned back against the wall of the cafe, struggling to catch his breath as Techno and Phil ran over. Tommy was gone. Tommy was gone, and it was all his fault. If he had been more careful about keeping Tommy's identity a secret, or maybe if he had never taken him to a syndicate meeting, or hell, maybe he just never should have given Techno Tommy's number in the first place. If none of this had ever happened, Tommy would still be living with Rambo and Rambo and Tubbo, and Dream wouldn't even know he existed. This was all his fault. He'd been the one to get Tommy involved in their world, and now he was paying the price. Tommy didn't deserve this. He hadn't even wanted to get involved in the first place, but Wilbur had pushed and pushed because that's all he could ever do. He was way too fucking pushy and could never let things rest until they went his way. He was so goddamn selfish. So selfish and self-obsessed, and now his little brother was being held hostage by Dream, and who the hell even knew what Dream could be doing to him? Dream could be hurting Tommy right now, and it was all Wilbur's fault. He couldn't breathe as the words repeated in his mind. All your fault. All your fault.
Sorry,
all
Chad,
your
I dropped
fault.
my phone.
They looped over and over like a broken record as his thoughts began to fully spiral. The panic he'd been clawing to keep at bay finally breaking out of his chest. Tommy could be hurt right now. He could be bleeding out. He could be begging Dream to let him go. He could be scared. He could be in pain. He could be fucking dead for all Wilbur knew.
His hands twisted tightly in his hair as he struggled to suck air into his lungs. No matter how many breaths he took, it wasn't working. His heart was racing in his ears. His chest was rising and falling faster and faster with every second, and he couldn't fucking breathe because holy fucking shit, Tommy could be dead right now, and it would be all his fault. Suddenly, there was cool hands on his wrists, pulling his hands away from his hair. Looking up from the ground, he was met with Phil's veil, and although he couldn't see his father's face right now, he could imagine the gentle expression he was wearing all the same. Will, you need to breathe with me, Phil whispered, taking exaggerated breaths for him to mimic. Just breathe. But he didn't want to focus on breathing. They needed to fucking find Tommy.
Will, you can't do anything to help Tommy like this. Come on, just work with me.
Clenching his jaw, Wilbur struggled to mimic Phil's breathing as his chest stuttered with every rise and fall. He hadn't even felt the tears on his cheeks till now, but as he tried to only focus on copying Phil and nothing else, he could feel the chilly night air tingling against the warmth on his face. Slowly, his breathing began to steady. He let out a few shaky breaths, head bobbing up and down as he copied his father. They continued this pattern for a few minutes, and eventually his pounding heart began to calm, as did the spiraling of his thoughts. Finally, after what felt like ages, Wilbur slumped against the wall of the cafe, his panic attack having fully ebbed away.
Better? Phil asked, letting go of his wrist. Yeah, better, Wilbur muttered, his voice rough. Just then, boots clicking against asphalt sounded from behind Phil, and Wilbur glanced over his father's shoulder to see Techno making his way over to them. I checked the entire block. There's no sign of them, Techno said, his hands curling into fists at his sides.
Of course, Wilbur hadn't thought they'd still be in the area, but to have that last small hope squashed so quickly was like another stab in his chest. We're going to get him back, Phil told them both, with no room for argument in his tone. We just can't lose our heads over this.
But what if he's hurting him, Phil?
Wilbur asked, his voice cracking.
He could try to hurt him to get information out of him.
He very well could be doing that, Phil nodded.
Which is just all the more reason to focus on finding Tommy as quickly as possible.
Do you think he took him to the hero tower? Techno asked, while Phil pushed his feet before holding a hand out to help Wilbur up. Wilbur grunted as he straightened his legs up. I don't think so. The hero committee might be a bunch of bastards, but I don't think even they would be able to legally condone kidnapping a child. Oh, that was Wilbur. Oh, well. So you think he's doing this outside the committee? Phil asked. I don't know. The committee might just be turning a blind eye while Dream keeps everything off the record. Or they might not know about it at all. Either way, I doubt he's at the hero tower. Wilbur said, shoving his hands in his pockets as the gears in his head began to turn again.
What you're saying is that he could just be about anywhere in the city, and we have no clue where? Techno then asked, raising an eyebrow behind his mask. Letting out a shaky sigh, Wilbur nodded. Pretty much. Phil cursed again under his breath. All right. We have to work with what we can then. We should ask Quackity if he can find any information through his network. Suddenly, Phil was cut off by the sound of 2 pairs of footsteps running up behind him.
What the hell is going on here? Wilbur clenched his jaw, resisting the urge to groan out loud. These were the last people he wanted to see right now. Turning his head, Wilbur saw Nuke and Ender standing a few feet away from the 3 of them, the 2 boys staring at the red backpack still on the ground. Nuke, Ender, maybe now isn't...
That's Tommy's backpack, Nuke said, cutting Phil off. Why the fuck do you have Tommy's backpack? Shit. Just great. Perfect fucking timing.
And is that Tommy's phone?
Ender asked, sounding much more timid than Nuke. Nuke turned his head towards Wilbur, and the next thing he knew, the vigilante was storming towards him.
What the fuck did you do to him, Siren? Nuke snarled, grabbing his shirt and yanking him down with surprising strength so that they were eye level. Beside him, he heard Techno and Phil both shout in surprise, and Wilbur held up a hand to tell them to stand down. I swear, we would never do anything to harm Tommy, Wilbur told the vigilante, keeping his hands where Nuke could see them. We have reason to believe Dream took him. Nuke stiffened at that, but he didn't let go of his shirt. What the fuck would Dream want with him?
We think that he figured out that Tommy was working with the Syndicate, Techno explained, his hand sitting on the hilt of his sword just in case Nuke tried anything. Although they technically hadn't gotten any confirmation that Nuke and Ender knew about Tommy's job as the healer, it was easy enough to figure out through context clues. The lack of surprise from either of them at that statement only confirmed it.
Oh, God. Oh, no. That's really bad,
Ender muttered, wrapping his arms around himself.
That's really, really bad.
So we just kidnapped him? Nuke asked, finally letting go of Wilbur's shirt and taking a step back.
He did. I was on the phone with him when it happened, but by the time I got here, they were already gone, Wilbur explained. Nuke took another step back so he was standing next to Ender, and Wilbur could see his hands were curling in and out of fists. He took a few breaths, shaking his head as he ran a hand through his hair. This is all your fault, you know, Nuke spat, after a few beats of silence, the words full of poison. Tommy would have never gotten involved in this shit if it weren't for you. The words stung like a slap to the face, but Wilbur knew they were true.
I know, Wilbur said quietly. I accept full responsibility for this. I should have done a better job of keeping him safe. It's not just your fault, Siren.
Phil stepped in.
The Syndicate agreed to hire Tommy. We were all responsible for Tommy's safety.
Yeah, but let's not waste time arguing about whose fault it was. Techno cut in. We need to focus on finding Tommy first and foremost.
Taking a breath, Wilbur nodded. He was right. It wouldn't do them any good to waste time arguing about this right now. Once they had Tommy with them again, safe and sound, then they could see who he hated the most for letting this happen. And if it was Wilbur he hated, then so be it. God knew he deserved it. Even if Tommy never spoke to him again, it would be worth it as long as Wilbur knew he was safe. Blade's right, Wilbur said, shoving his self-hatred down to turn his attention back to Nuke and Ender. We need to focus on finding Tommy, and we're going to need your help. Huh? Techno grunted, while Phil made a confused noise.
Nuke and Ender both stiffened.
Why us specifically, Siren?
He's American.
Why us specifically, Siren?
Ender asked, voice dripping with wariness.
Well, Wilbur had a reason. They weren't going to like it, but they deserve to know. Because Tubbo and Rambu, you're his family,
Wilbur said, meeting both of their eyes as he said their names.
Nuke reeled back as if he'd been shocked while Ender gasped sharply.
What? Did Tommy fucking tell you? Nuke snarled, looking like he was 2 seconds from lunging at Wilbur again. Wilbur shook his head. No, of course not. He'd never betray you like that. I figured it out on my own. That was true. It hadn't been hard to put all the pieces together when he was the only one who was able to see the whole picture. The night Tommy called him in tears, asking him to come to the cafe because he got into a fight with his roommates, Quackity told him that he'd just been healed by Tommy before Nuke and Ender showed up out of the blue. The two wanted to talk to him alone, and Tommy had insisted he'd be fine with them, so Quackity ended up leaving. After connecting those dots, Wilbur had contacted Sam to ask him for the public records on Tommy's roommates. When he saw the descriptions for the two boys from the foster care records, noticing how they both matched the heights and the builds of Nuke and Ender, the conclusion was obvious.
Wilbur had never intended on using the fact that he knew their identities against them. Tubbo and Rambu were Tommy's best friends. And once he knew the vigilantes that had been a pain in the ass for the syndicate weren't just Tommy's family, but kids to boot, he had doubled down on the syndicate, making sure they avoided Nuke and Ender as much as they could. Still, Tubbo and Rambu didn't know that.
So what? Are you gonna blackmail us now?
Nuke asked.
No, I'm not. I have no intention of using your identities against you. I just want your help to find Tommy,
Wilbur explained. Nuke scoffed, clearly not believing the sentiment, but that was fine. He could just trust Wilbur all he wanted, as long as they focused on finding Tommy first.
But how do you even want us to help? This is Dream we're talking about. He's one of the most powerful people in the city, Ender pointed out, wringing his hands in front of him. Wilbur opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, Techno cut in. Well, I'm sure Siren would love to explain whatever plan he has right now. I think we should probably not continue this conversation in the middle of the street, you know? That was a fair point. They were still standing in the middle of the street in front of the cafe, and while there was no one around to listen in on them, it probably wasn't a good idea to just be hashing this all out right in the public eye.
Wilbur's coat whipped around his legs as he tried to think of where they could go. Obviously, they couldn't take the vigilantes back to their own place, and the syndicate base was a bit far. Thankfully, Ender gave them a solution.
Well, since you guys already know who we are, you can just come back to our place. It's not far from here,
Ender suggested. Nuke whipped his head towards him.
Ender!
What? They know where we live. It's not like it's new information, he pointed out. Nuke seemed to be glaring at Ender, but after a few beats of silence, he sighed. Fine, why the fuck not at this point? Just let the goddamn supervillains into our home. They already know everything else about us. Tubbo, come on. Not right now, Ender pleaded. We need to focus on Tommy. Now this seemed to hit home. Nuke's shoulders immediately deflated and his head dropped as he let out a shaky breath.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, he muttered.
He looked back up and turned towards the three of them.
So, do you guys want to walk over there, or... We brought our car,
Techno said, jutting his thumb over to the black SUV that he had parked under a streetlight where Wilbur was having his panic attack.
Let's just drive over.
Nuke and Ender shared a look before they both shrugged.
It's not like this day can get any weirder, Ender muttered as they both began to trudge toward the car.
They brought Tommy's backpack and his phone with them into the car as they all piled inside. Wilbur sat in the back, with Nuke in the middle seat and Ender next to the other window, while Techno and Phil took the front again. Tommy's backpack sat heavily on Will's lap, a strange buzzing growing under his skin the longer he stared at it. It was some mixture of anxiety and anger, making him unable to relax for even a second as his mind was once again filled with the chanting of, "It's all your fault! It's all your fault!" on repeat. Tommy had been wearing his backpack less than an hour before. It had been with him, just like it always was, and now the backpack was here, and Tommy wasn't. Mindlessly, Wilbur zipped open the top of the backpack as the car started up, and saw a dark blue sweatshirt stuffed inside the largest pouch. Wilbur's chest ached when he recognized the sweatshirt as one he'd let Tommy wear when Tommy was still borrowing his stuff, before he and Phil had ordered Tommy his own clothes to have at the house. This was the one of the sweatshirts Tommy had taken from him and just never gave back. And Wilbur never really wore the thing that much, so it wasn't like he cared and was fine with letting him have it. Tears burned in his eyes again, and he had to take a few shaky breaths to keep himself calm. It was going to be all right. Even if this was the worst case scenario, they were going to find Tommy before Dream could lay a finger on him. That's what he had to believe right now. He couldn't let himself panic over any other possibility.
The car ride was silent as they drove down to the dilapidated apartment building. Nuke and Ender both kept their eyes on their laps, and Phil and Techno seemed to know better than to try and make awkward conversation between the two vigilantes. When they pulled to a stop in front of the apartment building, Wilbur thought back to the first time he'd walked Tommy home, and how worried he'd gotten when he noticed how poorly kept the place seemed to be. Nuke and Ender were clearly used to it, though. Once Techno found street parking, they all hopped out of the car and headed through the ground lobby of the building. Wilbur was a bit worried about all of them. Siren, Zephyrus, Blade, along with the vigilantes Nuke and Ender, being spotted. But neither Nuke or Ender seemed worried, so he figured they must know when the lobby will be empty. Sure enough, there was no one in the lobby as they passed through, and they all clambered into the dust-smelling elevator that rattled as it brought them up several floors. Nuke and Ender led the three of them to their apartment, Ender unlocking it and gesturing for the villains to go inside first. While Wilbur knew Techno and Phil had been here before, he realized a bit belatedly that he'd never actually seen the inside of Tommy's apartment.
It was small, which Wilbur expected, but what he didn't expect was how cold the inside was. How the trash was filled with leftover ramen packaging and little else. How there were several thin blankets filled with holes tossed over a couch that had to be older than any of the three boys who lived here. Wilbur knew Tommy struggled for money. That was why he worked so many shifts at the cafe, but it didn't fully hit him until now, just what that entailed. A freezing apartment with no heating, having to save what you could on food. It brought Wilbur back to days he didn't like to think about very much. The time he'd spent on the streets before Phil had found him. Although he had used his power to convince police officers to not look twice at him or shopkeepers to look away when he stuffed a loaf of bread under his shirt, it wasn't something he could do all the time. He remembered spending nights huddled in dark alleys, shivering so hard that he couldn't fall asleep. He remembered how difficult it was to force himself to eat the same bread loaves every day, but not having the resources to really make or buy anything else. He remembered how terrified he was of every glance his way, of adults watching him for just a second too late, of having his freedom pulled away from him again.
Tommy had fought and gotten his freedom from the system that Wilbur himself had run away from all those years ago. And then he put that distrust aside and put his faith in Wilbur. He trusted Wilbur to keep him safe and, more importantly, free. And Wilbur had failed him. Siren, Techno suddenly called out, drawing Wilbur out of his thoughts. Huh?
I asked if you were all right. You were just kind of standing in front of the doorway, Techno said, giving him an odd look. Wilbur shook his head. I'm fine. Sorry, got lost in thought for a second. He finished stepping through the doorway and got into the apartment, Nuke shutting the door behind him. Glancing into the small living room, Wilbur saw Ender pulling off his goggles and face mask while Nuke tossed his gas mask onto the couch. God, they were really children, weren't they? Although the pictures Wilbur had seen of the two boys from their files were a few old, they hadn't really aged at all much since then.
Nuke, or Tubbo, Wilbur supposed he should think of him now, noticed his staring and blinked. You know, if you want, you can take your mask off too, Tubbo said in a strange voice, eyeing him with a challenging gaze. Wilbur smirked at Tubbo's audacity. Yeah, no thanks, kid. Tubbo raised an eyebrow. You sure? I mean, we might as well be on an equal playing field, Wilbur Soot.
Phil and Techno both stiffened when Wilbur's name left Tubbo's lips, and Wilbur felt himself freeze on the spot. Tubbo knew his name. Tubbo knew his identity. How the fuck did he find out? Tommy didn't even know Wilbur's identity, so how the hell could Tubbo, someone Wilbur had never even met before, know who he was? The only people who knew Wilbur was Siren were his family and the rest of the syndicate. That was it. Phil was extremely strict about keeping their identities a secret from anyone who didn't need to know. They had to minimize risk at all costs. That was why Wilbur hadn't even been allowed to tell Tommy, despite how many times he'd wanted to just get it off his chest. So how in the hell did fucking Tubbo know?
He considered playing dumb, trying to act like Tubbo was ridiculous for thinking he was Wilbur Soot. But considering how he, Phil, and Techno had all frozen at the mere mention of his name, he knew it would be pointless to try and convince the boys Tubbo was wrong now. How did you find out my name? Wilbur asked immediately, letting honey slip into his words to tempt the truth out. Tubbo snorted. No use using your house, man. I'm not the same way you found out our identities. Just fade it out. Well, we saw Tommy talking about Siren in front of the cafe that one night, and then started hearing about him talking about his new friend named Wilbur just a few days later. It wasn't hard to put two and two together. Rambu added in, looking downright smug at Wilbur's shock.
So they'd known before Wilbur had told them he knew their identities. They'd just been holding on to this card to see what Wilbur's intentions with their identities was first. And now that they were in a private space, alone with 3 supervillains, the two revealed the card up their sleeves. It was a bold move that held a lot of risk, but Wilbur admired it. God damn. And Wilbur thought Quackity was a card shank. Vilza, Technoblade, you guys can take your mask off too, Tubbo added, although it wasn't so much a request, but more so an order. If Nuke and Ender were going to be maskless, so were Siren, Blade, and Zephyrus. Huh? Techno exclaimed.
They're saying, chat is saying crunchy mic. Something about glitching.
Really? Hold on. Chat, hello. Hold on. For me,
Pause
crunch.
champ?
Pause champ? Pause champing. We're pause champing. A little bit of a, I think it's...
Is it me? Is it me?
Is it crunchy mic for Julie or me?
Test, test, test. This is Julie Berry talking.
Julie
Am I
Berry
saying
live.
crystal clear?
Okay.
I'm glitching?
I
This
didn't
is
hear
so
any
sad.
glitching on my side. That was weird.
Oh, I am glitching.
You
Hold
are?
on. I'm
Okay.
gonna unplug my mic and plug it back in.
Okay, you're good.
BRB.
Okay. Technical difficulties. Okay. I don't know why I didn't hear it. That's so weird. Or maybe I was just so engrossed in the story that I didn't realize it. Mid-talk. How we doing, chat? How we doing, chat? Voice acting is hard. Julie does it so well. Julie Crunch. Crunchy Julie.
Kid Sage, am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Alright, chat, am I okay?
How we is Julie still crunchy?
Am I still crunchy?
Crunchy.
Crunchy moment.
It's still
Crunch
glitch.
berry. It is.
A little? What?
What's the mug?
I don't even hear it though.
I know, it's weird.
What the heck? Still
Could it be-
crunch. It could have.
When you mess with your audio or something?
It could have been.
That's dumb.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I can.
No, funny.
It is funny. Let's see. Let's see. Oh man, I can't check it while I'm in stream. Hold on. Let's see. It's your mic trying to save us from the fanfic pain. Let's go. No, we need the fanfic pain. Let's see.
Maybe I just need to turn my away or something.
Let me see.
It's so weird, it's never done this before.
Here, I'm gonna try and. Yeah, I know that's so. Maybe it could have been the audio. It's worse. What?
Oh no, hold on.
I'm
I'm
not-
unplugging it all the way. I'll
Okay.
be back in like a
Okay.
minute.
So chat, thing is, I messed with audio like last night, because I wanted to find a way for us to listen to, copyrighted music, and without it being saved to the Twitch VOD. So I got it figured out. So I don't know what's going on with Discord right now. So that's the thing. Let me see if I can add more.
Now the interstate is paved with
Memories. Let's see.
Not get conscious demon. I'm
What?
demon berry.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it at all. You're sounding perfect for me, but
Yeah, but I have it on. I have your stream pulled up,
okay. Can you hear
and
it?
then I'm so vibrating,
Really?
dude.
Hold on.
I don't know what's happening.
No, no. Hold on. Let me.
Do I need to leave the call and come back?
You can try that.
I'm gonna try that.
Okay.
Bye, chat.
Okay, let's see what's going on. Let me see if I can pull up my stream so I can hear it. I don't know what's going on, but am I okay, chat? If I'm okay, then we'll see.
Bonk.
Bonk. Okay. Chat, let me know.
Back. Bing bong bing.
Oh, I have
Ooh.
ads on my phone. Oh, hold on. Ah!
You have ads on your own phone?
Yeah,
That's just sad.
I know. Much better? It's good? Okay. Cool.
Yeah!
Let's go. Okay, are we sounding good? We're good? We're good?
Oh my gosh.
Oh
thank
my god.
goodness.
It might have been the audio thing. It might have just, like, it's fixed. Okay. See, that's the equivalent of turning it off and turning it back on.
Magic.
Okay, and see. No, I'm just kidding. Where were we? I forgot. Yeah, no, time to cry. Time to cry. You guys aren't saved.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. You were
Sorry,
never
guys.
safe. Okay. We'll start up on your section, the though they'd known before.
How were you able to figure it out? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
So they know before Wilbur. That part.
I'm highlighting it. This part?
No.
No?
Wait.
Wait,
On the Google Doc?
Yeah, Google Doc. Oh, okay. Okay, that area. Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
I was a little bit after. Okay.
You're good.
And scene. So they'd known before Wilbur had told them he knew their identities. They'd just been holding onto this card to see what Wilbur's intentions with their identities was first. And now that they were in a private space, alone with 3 supervillains, the two revealed the card up their sleeves. It was a bold move that held a lot of risk, but Wilbur admired it. God damn, and Wilbur thought Quackity was a card shank. Philza, Technoblade, you guys can take off your masks too, Tubbo added. Although it wasn't so much a request, but more so an order. If Nuke and Ender were going to be maskless, so were Siren, Blade, and Zephyrus. Huh? Techno exclaimed.
Ow! Phil trailed off, blinking in shock. Come on, guys, it's not hard. When Tubbo looked up Wilbur's public records, he was able to find out he had a brother and a father. The brother sharing the Blade's build and pink hair. People have suspected Siren, Blade, and Zephyrus are family for a while, so it just made sense. Rambu shrugged, smiling innocently at the 3 of them. Great. They really had leveled out the playing field. Sighing, Wilbur reached up to pull his mask off and watched from the corner of his eye as Phil lifted his veil and Techno set the boar mask on the kitchen counter. Then, Wilbur leaned against the counter and folded his arms over his chest.
How were you able to figure it out and not Tommy? Wilbur asked, frowning at the 2 of them. Tubbo rolled his eyes. Well, but if Tommy wanted to know who Siren was, he would put it together in seconds. The only reason he doesn't know is because he's purposely trying not to think about it. We pointed it out to him once, Rambu added, that we thought you and Siren were the same person. He shut it down, but it was easy to tell he was just pushing it away. Frowning, Wilbur stared at his hands, thinking back on his interactions with Tommy. Tommy had never acted like he suspected anything, although he wasn't really doing a good job at being subtle, and he knew it. In truth, a part of him had wanted Tommy to figure it out on his own, just so that Techno and Phil couldn't get on about him, revealing his identity to Tommy himself.
But Tommy had never seemed suspicious of Wilbur and Siren's similarities. So he just assumed he was clueless. However, what Tubbo and Rambu were saying made a lot of sense. Tommy knew it was dangerous for him to know the Syndicate's identities. Of course, he was going to push away any suspicions he had. He deserved to know, though. Considering the worst-case scenario had happened without Tommy knowing their identities, Wilbur was going to make the case for revealing it all to Tommy as soon as they got him back. And he wasn't going to take no for an answer. But they had to get Tommy back before that could happen. All right. Well, we're all on the same level here now, Wilbur said, gesturing at his own uncovered face. We need to get down to business.
Right. We need to figure out what you need us to do so we can help find Tommy, Rambu said, holding his hands in front of him. Actually, I think I came up with something I can do on the way over here, Tubbo chimed in, spinning around in his chest air. Everyone turned to look at Tubbo, raising their eyebrows and waiting for him to continue. He stopped spinning and tapped on his mouse, his computer screen flickering to life. I don't know if you guys know this, but how much information is stored on the database for the Hero Committee? Well, if you're asking if you could find out Dream's real identity or something by hacking onto their files, I'd say you're out of luck, Techno told him. Tubbo shook his head. No, I'm not trying to find that, but I'm wondering if personal contact information like emails or something is stored there.
Phil frowned. I mean, from what Daedalus has told us about the way the Hero Committee is run, probably. But I don't see how that would be helpful unless you plan on spam calling Dream to find out where Tommy is. While that would be funny, that's not where I was going to get with that, Tubbo said, typing rapidly into his computer and pulling up the website for the Hero Committee. Do you think Dream has a phone or computer that's separate from the one that he uses for his work-related stuff? Definitely. Daedalus told us that every hero is given work devices, and then they have their own personal devices as well, since the committee has full access to the data on their work devices, Phil explained. Technically, the Hero Committee has access to their personal devices just as well, but they're not supposed to look through their personal devices unless there's an official investigation or warrant sent out against that hero. Dream's not keeping Tommy at the Hero Tower, right? Tubbo asked, pulling up the source code for the Hero Committee website.
No, he's definitely not. He probably has a private place that the Hero Committee doesn't know about to hold him at. Tebukno answered. Tubbo nodded. Just what I thought. So it's not unreasonable to assume if he had to arrange for wherever he's at holding Tommy to be empty for an extended period of time, he would have done that on a phone or computer that the Hero Committee didn't know about? That would be logical to assume, yes. Wilbur agreed. Cool, then I know what I need to look for, Tubbo said, his screen turning dark as lines of green code began running across. I can't promise anything, but I think our best bet is going to be for me to try and gain access to Dream's secret phone or computer through the ones he has connected to the Hero Committee. Obviously, this might not work depending on how strictly he's been keeping the devices disconnected from each other, but I have some ideas for how I can find connections between the two that might not have thought of. Then, once I have access to that secret phone or computer he's got, I can get through to it and see if there's any record of where he's keeping Tommy.
Wilbur blinked. That actually wasn't a bad idea. But there was one glaring issue.
How long would that take?
He asked, furrowing his brows. Tubbo didn't stop typing on his keyboard, but Wilbur noticed his shoulders drop a bit. I don't know, honestly. I could get lucky and find out in a few hours, but that's pretty unlikely. I'd say it'll take me a few days at least, depending on how much I have to search through.
A few days. That was too long. Way too long. Wilbur didn't want Tommy to spend another hour with Dream, let alone several days. Is there nothing we can do that's faster? Wilbur asked, clenching his jaw. This is what I can do. Anything more is on you guys. You're the big scary villain organization with tons of resources, Tubbo said, shooting Wilbur a dirty look over his shoulder. Shit. Yeah. Wilbur was getting too caught up in his own head and was forgetting all the resources they had at their disposal.
Oh. I was reading the funny pun in the chat.
I know, me too!
That's a good one, Tiny.
That was good.
Okay.
See.
We'll contact Jester and ask him to see what he can find out through his network,
Wilbur said, tapping his fingers against his arm.
I know he's got a few mercenaries in his contacts who will work with just about anyone. So one of them could have information on Dream if he ever needed someone to do his dirty work for him. Puns could know. Techno nodded.
I'd ask Jester about him first.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Puns would be our best bet,
Wilbur agreed, thinking of the mysterious mercenary who was the go-to person in the underground for discreet work. If there was anyone Dream would have hired, it would be him.
Shit, okay. I need to make some calls.
I think it's time for us to go anyway, Phil said, straightening up. Tubbo, Rambu, do you need our numbers?
I got them from your phone bill, Tubbo said casually. Phil frowned. How did you... He cut himself off, seeming to realize what a dumb question that was, considering they were talking to a hacker. Never mind. We'll let you know as soon as we have anything, Rambu said, standing up so he could walk them to the door. And if you need anyone for anything like spying or infiltration, I can teleport, so feel free to contact me. I might not know computers like Tubbo does, but I'm going to help in any way I can. It was such an earnest offer, and although Wilbur wasn't sure if they were going to need someone with teleportation skills for finding Tommy, he could tell that Rambu just wanted to feel like he was doing something. They were all searching for something to cling on to, something to make them feel like they were actually working towards saving Tommy.
Thank you, Rambu,
Wilbur said, nodding at him.
We'll let you guys know.
The three of them pulled their masks on again. After one last round of goodbyes, Siren, Zephyrus, and Blade found themselves heading out of the apartment building. Wilbur didn't realize how much he'd been running on adrenaline until he got back into the car, practically collapsing into his seat. His head was aching, his chest still tight from his panic attack earlier. The car started up, and Wilbur stared at his hands in his lap. It could take them several days to find Tommy, and that was assuming Tubbo's plan would work. Wilbur knew he shouldn't be worrying himself sick over what could be happening to Tommy right now. He should be focusing on what to do now. He should be calling Quackity, calling Puns, asking anyone and everyone he could think of for information on Dream.
But as the car rumbled down the street, Wilbur felt frozen. His heart sat in his throat, and all he wanted was to wake up from this living nightmare. Wilbur barely registered the ride home. One moment they were in East Side, pulling away from Tubbo and Rambu's apartment, and the next they were pulling into their garage. The door to his left opened. Will, you gonna come in the house? Phil asked, his voice gentle.
Wilbur knew he should get up, but he was staring at Tommy's backpack sitting by his feet.
He's going to hate me when we get him back,
Wilbur whispered,
And he should. I deserve it for putting him in danger.
Wilbur, it wasn't just you who got him involved. We all did, Phil reminded him, placing a hand on his shoulder.
But I'm the one who started it. I'm the one who gave Techno his number. I'm the one he decided to save in the alley that day.
He curled further in on himself. The seatbelt he was still wearing tugged against his shoulder.
If he hadn't saved my life, he'd be alright right now. He'd be safe.
Wilbur literally owed Tommy his life, and this was how he repaid him, by being stupid enough to let him get kidnapped. But he chose to save your life because that's the kind of person he is, Phil said, squeezing his shoulder. Not to mention, it's not like you asked him to save your life. You were unconscious at the time. Yeah, but... Wilbur's breathing hitched. I've just been so fucking selfish this whole time. I've been taking advantage of the fact that he doesn't know I'm Siren and asking him stuff he'd never tell me as Wilbur. I've dragged him into a whole mess when he repeatedly told me he didn't want to get involved. I've just been such a fucking asshole to him and he doesn't even know it. His eyes started to burn again, and he squeezed his eyes shut as a shuddering breath ran through him. He's such a good kid, Phil. He's so good and he deserves so much better than this. Will.
I want him to hate me when he gets back,
Wilbur continued, his voice cracking.
But I know him and he's going to forgive me anyway because that's the kind of person he is and I don't deserve his forgiveness.
Wilbur,
I just don't know how I'm going to face him when we get him back, he confessed. How am I supposed to? Wilbur!
Wilbur went silent, looking up at Phil through tears. Phil placed a hand on Wilbur's cheek, using his thumb to wipe away a stray tear. Whether or not you believe Tommy should hate you for what happened, it's his own choice whether to forgive you or not. But if he does, you shouldn't try to take that choice away from him and tell him he shouldn't. What you need to do instead is work to earn that forgiveness, to try and make things right, even if Tommy believes that it's fine. Don't just sit and moan about how you deserve to be hated, Phil told him, his stare so intense. Wilbur felt like it was a burning hole into his head. You're not perfect, Wilbur. You've made mistakes, and so does everyone else. What's important is that you recognize when you fucked up, and you put in the work to fix it. Wilbur nodded. That made sense.
Okay, I think I get it,
he whispered. Phil smiled at him. Then let's go inside and find our boy.
All right, let's find him.